Welcome back. This is our fourth day through the book of Chronicles. Today we read chapters 14 to 16. Yesterday we saw how David had tried to bring the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, that box in which were the Ten Commandments, and through history some other things were also in there. But it was the place upon which there was a mercy seat, as it was called, with these angels, these cherubim that were carved in gold, looking down upon the mercy seat. And it was said that that was where God would meet with the children of Israel. The presence of God was, in some special localized way, centered around or focused upon this Ark of the Covenant. And so it was the Ark that David wanted to have with him in Jerusalem, his new capital city, because he wanted the presence of God in his midst. Of course, we saw yesterday that when they first tried to bring the Ark into Jerusalem, they failed. Why? Well, a number of reasons which we'll talk about today, but at the end of the day, it was because they did not carry the Ark or transport the Ark in the way prescribed by the law of Moses. In the law of Moses, it was said that the ark always had to be carried on the shoulders of the priests, of the Levitical priests. But they didn't do that. They put it on the back of a cart, like a trailer, and they were dragging it with oxen. Of course, the oxen stumbled. Uzzah stuck out his hand to steady the ark to make sure it didn't fall off the cart, and God at that point got so furious that he struck Uzzah dead. And he showed himself to be an all-consuming fire. Well, today we see the pleasant ending to that story of how they now correct the mistake that they made. David hears that God has blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and now he desires to bring that ark into Jerusalem, his new capital again. This time they do it in the prescribed manner, and I want to read to you a verse from the song that David sang once the ark had successfully been brought into Jerusalem and settled in the tent, the tabernacle that he had prepared for it there. So David sings the song to commemorate this day, and he hands the song over to the choir master. And in verse 34, it says this. This is the ending of the psalm. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. For his mercy endures forever. Now, the point I simply want to make today is that the first time that David tried to bring the ark into Jerusalem, when Uzzah is struck dead, there is the terrifying presence of God amongst them, judging them, angry, striking people dead. I mean, it was quite fearful. And of course, the impression that could give someone who they just sort of picked up the Bible and it was the only thing they ever read, the danger is that there's this impression that God is like this angry God, that he's always angry, that he's impossible to please, that he's pedantic, he's nitpicking, he's just looking for excuses to strike people down, that he kind of delights in his power and his sort of grumpy sovereignty. And that's a mistake which we cannot make. You can't classify God based on one event like that. We've got to take a step back and say, well, why was there this outbreak at Nachon's threshing floor where Uzzah was struck dead? And the answer is because the first time they tried to bring the ark into Jerusalem, it was entirely selfish. They wanted the presence of God amongst them because that's the shortcut to blessing and a blessed life. Your best life today. Well, that's not what God is about. He's not to be treated like some amulet that brings you good luck. And they didn't care about God's ways and about how God had said the ark should be transported. No, we just want that box in Jerusalem, we're going to bring it. And so there was a profound kind of blasphemy to the earlier attempt, a selfishness, a pride, a disregard for God and his ways and his worship. But of course, that all changes in the reading that we did today. As soon as God was consulted to how he would want this to be done, he is seen not only to accept them and not strike anyone dead this time and allow them to bring the ark of God into the city, but he is seen helping them. And I want to read that verse to you, and this is really where the devotion came out of today. So this is chapter 15, verses 25 and 26. So David and the elders of Israel and the captains over thousands went to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the house of Obed-Edom with joy. And so it was, when God helped the Levites who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, that they offered 7 bulls and 7 rams. And there David is seen dancing with all his might before the ark as it's brought into Jerusalem and put into that tabernacle. So here's how I'd like to finish this. God knows that we need his help. God helped the Levites as they were carrying the ark. In many ways he could have helped them. Just physically, it would have been heavy and they could have stumbled, or maybe he helped them in how they treated this moment in their hearts. He helped them work together with all of the musicians and this whole procession that was going with them, and that the timing of it was all good, and that the footing was clean and the weather was good. However it was, he helped them. He helped them. So God knows you need his help. In order to please him, in order to live a life that is acceptable to him, he knows you need. He doesn't expect you to have all the answers. He doesn't expect you to have the strength that you do need in order to live life well and please God. He knows you need his help. What God does expect from you, however, is that you would consult him, that you would ask him for his help, that you would draw near to him, that you would seek him. Because it was for that reason that this project didn't work the first time, because they didn't consult him. But as soon as they consulted him, he is seen now to be, as David sings, good and full of mercy and bringing joy to his people. God is to be consulted. Earlier on in the reading today, we saw of how David defeats the Philistines in one way, a frontal attack, and then he's going to fight them again, but he doesn't rest on his previous victories. He says, God, must I fight them now? And how must I do it? And God says, yes, you must, but this time, go around the back by that grove of mulberry trees, and when you hear marching in the tops of the mulberry trees, then I want you to attack. And they do it exactly the way God wants. Who would have thought that that's the way you got to do it? We must continually consult God with the decisions of our lives and how we are seeking to please him and serve him and honor him. And if we will just do that, draw near to him in faith, in humble faith, he will continually be seen to be helping us to please him. So let's do that. Let's remember God is an all-consuming fire. And yet he is not only that, he is also good, and he helps those who seek him. And let's have that prayer on our lips from the Song of David. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endures forever. See you tomorrow.